It's not always that the finance minister gets an opportunity to see what has been said in the budget getting executed. So today, I have the rare privilege of coming here, being with you, and also participate in the launch of not just one, but two of those announcements. Ideally, I would have liked to have this done within a year, but it is done, so I shouldn't have any point of grievance. In an economy, I think it is the financial sector which becomes a very effective barometer of the underlying confidence in the macroeconomic fundamentals of any country. And it reveals also the growth potential that exists. So today, if you see, it's for all of us Indians, it's a matter of pride that Indian financial market ecosystem ranks among the best in the world in terms of the technology and the value come volume aspects of trading. So we are extremely fortunate that the Indian capital markets have been a trendsetter of sorts in many aspects of trading, particularly the one which has been referred to earlier, the fastest in terms of settlement of trade and also risk mitigation and governance. So I appreciate all of your participation, involvement, and constant inputs that you share with both the ministry and the regulators, as a result of which today we are able to achieve a trend-setting, speedy settlement, which many of the developed countries themselves remark when you talk to them, saying, you have achieved it, we are 1 point lesser than where you are. So there is that absolute recognition for the rapid pace at which technology is getting integrated, performance is constantly improving, and it is functioning as a robust institution, which is what it should be. So it's also pleasing to note that the equity markets have witnessed broad-based participation from all segments. Retail investors, as was again mentioned in your presentation, with more than 11.5 crore demat accounts on the one side of the spectrum, as it were, and also to see small and medium enterprises raising funds through IPOs on the other. So this is really a robust and all-around growth that we are witnessing today. The number of stock market investors, sorry about my sniffing every 2 minutes, I think the monsoon has an impact on all of us. This number of the stock market investors, especially the retail, reflects the strength of the economy as an increasing quantum of household savings makes its way to this liquid, transparent, formal, and also well-regulated segment of investing. So I will definitely mention here that we have carried out manifold reforms in the financial sector and innovatively used technology to achieve the financial inclusion. And globally, again, that is something which is commented upon, discussed, and we are sought advice from very many countries for the financial inclusion that has been achieved at scale and which fosters transparency. So as a result, you're talking about a country which has leveraged technology to its fullest in every segment of the financial ecosystem. The scale of growth of the capital markets in the recent years, although may not be news to you, I would certainly present it here before you, for the media, to understand that the stakeholders are here who contributed to that kind of a growth in the capital markets. 10 years ago, our country's market capitalization stood at 74 lakh crores only. It has almost doubled every 5 years since then and reaching 300 lakh crores today. It is now ranked among the fifth among top 10 most valued countries. So it is a credit-worthy milestone that we need to remember that all of us have contributed to it, you in particular. Second, India's weight in the MSCI, Emerging Market Index, one of the most followed indices globally, in 2013 was only 6.3%. It has now more than doubled again to 14.6%, and that is one of the much talked about, and for you it may not be news, as I said earlier, but it is something which is remarkably standing out for India's performance. The third point, again as recent achievement, is the number of retail demat account holders has increased from 2 crores in 2013 to more than 11.5 crores today. That is, more than 6 crores have been added in the last just 3 years. The fourth is about the mutual fund industry, which 10 years ago managed assets worth 8 lakh crores, today stands proud managing assets worth 44 lakh crores, clocking an annual growth rate of over 18%. The fifth, which I'd like to put before you, is the number of unique mutual fund investors who have grown from 1 crore in 2014 to 4 crores today. And also the innovative instruments which you've designed and brought out with the regulators also working together with us is the REITs and the InvITs. They have witnessed tremendous growth over the last 5 years, with their combined NAV surging from 10,000 crores to about 2.5 lakh crores today. In the recent past, in the visits that I've had to a few countries, and also the World Bank and the regular fund bank meetings, great appreciation is voiced by big investors and also by financial observers, financial world's observers, saying India's REIT and InvIT are fantastically designed and very attractive for investors as well. Yesterday, in fact, as I was seated in the parliament, I had a visitor come. I don't want to name them. It was one of the biggest pension funds. They mentioned REIT and InvIT, saying very remarkably designed, very innovative way of functioning. It's very attractive. We are very invested in it. So this innovative way of coming up with investment tools has actually drawn the attention of the world, which moves from trodden path. And in that, there's enough and sufficient returns, so that goes on well. But for a country like us, where you want to have greater attractions being provided, you're coming up with innovative tools has actually helped. I'd like to, for a minute, spend some time on the initiatives undertaken in the recent years. There are several, but I would just highlight a few. After wide consultation, even with state governments, the Indian Stamp Act of 1899 was amended, and it got notified on 10th December 2019, the first year of this 5-year term of Prime Minister Modi, for levy and administration of stamp duties on securities market instruments at one place by one agency and one instrument, and for appropriately sharing the same with relevant state governments based on the state of domicile of the ultimate buying client. This has been one of the big thing which has happened whilst we talk about one nation, one tax in the name of GST. This one big change, and I would think it's a very, very significant change, and it has helped the common investor. This has created a pan-India market for securities. In the 32 months beginning July 2020, to March 2023. Since its operation, that is, state governments have collected nearly 8,154.45 crores. This is not otherwise possible for states. If they were not given this access and benefit, they would be where they are. The revenues which they could have got accrued would have stayed somewhere, but they wouldn't have benefited from it. So a major step taken, a legislative correction taken, has actually helped both the end beneficiary and also who's the investor himself, and also the state governments where the buying clients are located. The second one is the budget speech of 21-22, in which we announced the launch of a gold spot exchange in the country, and as the first electronic platform for spot trading of gold in dematerialized form, with SEBI as its regulator. Now, towards this electronic gold receipts were notified as securities under the Securities Contracts Regulation Act, and the same has been operationalized. India's first international bullion exchange, the IIBX, was also inaugurated by Honorable Prime Minister on 29 July 2022. And this exchange aims to offer a world-class bullion exchange ecosystem for bullion trading, investment in bullion financial products, and also for vaulting facilities in the IIFSC. Another major announcement of this government is to consolidate the laws dealing with securities market in the country into a single securities market code. This is vital, in my opinion, as it is intended to consolidate the three different laws: the SCRA of 1956 vintage, the SEBI Act of 1992, and the Depositories Act of 1996 into a single act with an updated and rationalized set of provisions. The Securities Market Code is intended to be future ready, take into account developments from a long-term perspective, as well as promote ease of doing business. This will also cater to the developmental and regulatory needs of the country's capital markets, which is growing very rapidly, and we are seeing all of us are contributing towards it. A lot of groundwork has already been done, and I expect this code, this new code, to become a reality soon. In this context, let me say a few words about the GIFT IFSC. As a result of the several initiatives that the Government of India has taken in the last 3 years, we have witnessed a substantial growth across the entire spectrum of financial services, including banking, capital markets, fund management, insurance, aircraft leasing, fintech, and so on, all in the GIFT city. We have also witnessed full-scale operation of the NSE, IFSC, SGX, the Singapore Exchange. All of them connect with the transition of SGX Nifty derivatives to NSE, IFSC that took place this month on the 3rd of July 2023. I'm more than happy to share that GIFT Nifty derivatives on NSE, International Exchange, witnessed a record first session single day trading activity of more than 214,000 contracts with a turnover of $8.5 billion on 24th July 2023. Now, the ecosystem is rapidly growing, currently comprises of 70 plus funds and other players. The total capital committed to the fund stood at $16.3 billion as on June 2023. Now, while announcing the stimulus package about the direct listing, and I'm sure the media friends here would immediately have their antennas up. This is one question which we've been periodically asked. You've been talking about it. Are you not going to ever implement it? So I'm here to say that I had said in May 2020, direct listing of securities by Indian public companies would now be permissible in foreign jurisdictions. Now, I'm pleased to announce that the government has taken a decision to enable direct listing of listed and unlisted companies on the IFSC exchanges. So this is a major step forward, and this will also facilitate access to global capital and result in better valuation of the Indian companies. It is worth emphasizing that the government's vision for GIFT IFSC transcends much beyond the realm of traditional finance and ventures into the realm of thought leadership. And that is where I think the participation of domain experts like you in understanding the rapidly changing and improving environment, which is being legislatively and also through ordinances and some executive orders enabled, so that India's Atmanirbhar goal is fulfilled even in the financial sector with its various dimensions. On the capital bond market, corporate bond market, a few words to be said. In India, over the last few years, government has actually taken a lot of interest and worked together with the financial regulators. And the outstanding stock of corporate bonds has increased more than fourfold from 10.51 lakh crores, which is a figure of 2012, to 42 lakh crores at the end of 2023 financial year. RBI, in consultation with the DEA, increased the limit for FPI investment in corporate bonds from 9% to 15% of outstanding stock, even as early as 2020-2021. Another very significant reform done by us was the passage of the Act for Bilateral Netting of Qualified Financial Contractors. I remember this bill getting passed through severe pandemic lockdown, and the Parliament was in session in 2020, pursuant to which Reserve Bank of India has notified the credit default swaps along with other OTC derivatives as qualified financial contracts for netting. I've already spoken about the rates and and also the framework for all these have been so readily provided. Another important area which I'd certainly like to bring to your notice is the issue and the listing of municipal debt securities, which has enabled market-based financing of infrastructure projects. As announced in this year's budget, through property tax governance reform and ring-fencing user charges on urban infrastructure, we are actually incentivizing cities to improve their credit rating and ready themselves for municipal bonds. The market for Repo in government securities is one of the most liquid markets in the country. However, of course, Repo in corporate bonds to take off, lack of central counterparty has been cited till now as the main reason. We have now addressed that issue. So for both the limited purpose Repo Clearing Corporation and also for the backstop facility, which have been launched today, I'm very happy to be here. And this is borne out. This significant initiative is actually borne out of a collaboration of the industry, the government, towards building market institutions where both issuers and investors in the debt market will stand to benefit. So I'm extremely happy to be here. Now, come here, participate in a function which is primarily being hosted by the SEBI and not talk of the regulator and go away. I'm sure you're not going to forgive me. So I will have a few words to say on the regulator as well, regulations and the regulator. At this stage of economic development, the main focus of our financial sector regulation, therefore, should be market development and also investor protection. Our market should be enabled for ease of raising capital as much as the investors should be given the necessary protection, both simultaneously. And the maintaining that balance of this as well as that is a very, very delicate job, and I'm sure our regulators will keep that in mind. They are attending to it, but both will have to be balanced. Regulators, of course, have a very onerous job and mostly thankless job for safeguarding market stability. But that's how some things are, and we'll have to live with that. For a vibrant financial sector, during Amritkal, our regulatory architecture should be also set for itself, should set global benchmarks with regulations that are flexible, effective, and proportionate, and those do not stifle innovation. So these are very high and strong demands, expectations, and I'm sure the maturity with which our regulators are operating today, I'm confident these will be addressed very well. At the same time, we are competing with not only other emerging markets. This is again some point which is very important for us to keep in our mind, not just the regulators, the ministry, and also all you stakeholders, that we are not competing with just the emerging markets, but also with the advanced economies to attract investment. So equally, we need to enhance the mobilization of domestic savings towards financial assets by easing access to the financial markets and strengthening investor grievance redressal mechanisms. Public consultation, again a matter which I had mentioned in the budget, I would certainly put it before you, that the public consultations will be made integral to the process of regulation making, in the process of regulation making and issuing subsidiary directions. I firmly believe that a set of broad indicative benchmarks for a good consultative and participatory process for better understanding between the regulators and the regulated may help in achieving better economic outcomes, smoother acceptance of regulatory changes, and effective functioning of the financial markets. So as a budget item, this proposal of public consultation, both before the policy and before the regulatory changes are made, will be of critical value for all stakeholders. We may also have a regulatory impact assessment to critically assess the positive and negative effects of proposed and existing regulations and non-regulatory alternatives. It is an important element of evidence-based policy making, and I feel this can enhance accountability and transparency in the policy making and decision making processes. Regulators in India have also carried, in fact, they have carried out ex post reviews and withdrawn various obsolete notifications and regulations. However, such reviews need to be comprehensive and become an integral and permanent part of the regulatory life cycle. Time limits to decide the applications under various regulations should also be laid down in the interest of ease of doing business and for being responsive. Regulatory actions may vary from disclosure to light touch regulation and supervision to tight regulation and full-fledged supervision. So this or that. Disclosure to light touch regulation and supervision to tight regulation and full-fledged supervision, depending on the risk implications. Hence, all financial sector regulators must consider regulations proportionate to risks and factor in risk mitigated by use of tech-enabled systems by regulated entities. So there is a new area of work which may not be new for many of you stakeholders, but for regulators. That area of work should now take a lot of priority in order to be able to be a facilitating regulator. And that is very critical for today's environment, for our Amritkal, for our Atmanirbhar Bharat, and for an India 2047 to be completely developed. I will say, therefore, that the quality, proportionality, and effectiveness of regulations matter the most for ease of doing business. I repeat, quality, proportionality, and effectiveness of regulations matter the most for ease of doing business, ease of investing, and ease of living. So, taking into account our national priorities, I would propose that the regulatory environment must strive to balance at all times, the creation of a conducive environment for starting and running businesses. I want you to just listen to the three that I'm going to say here, because I would leave it as a thought for you all as the trinity which will be for all of us here very important before us. The creation of a conducive environment for starting and running businesses, the maintenance of market integrity, and the sustenance of market stability. So I would think this can be the possible trinity with which we can take the financial domain, markets, the regulators, and the government, and the policy makers, and the legislatures, all to look forward for a robust market system which will take us forward for a developed India. So creation, maintenance, and sustenance. So I think I've taken this opportunity to give you a long-wound set of thoughts that I've had today. I leave the thoughts with you, but I will invite you for an active, continuing engagement with the government and with the regulators so that we can take India forward, because aspirations of the people are ever growing, which is a healthy sign, and we need to be there to serve that. Thank you very much.